So Buffy's world continues to expand now into the future with the last Vampire Slayer. You're getting to explore, her future self and the future iterations of these characters. I guess what was the first step for you into taking on this era of Buffy's world?
Sure. So I started writing The Last Vampire Slayer last year. The first arc came out last year, and then we did a 40-page mini, and now we are launching into a 5-issue miniseries that starts coming out August 2nd. So in this series, we see Buffy in her 50s and 60s, unintentionally caretaking for a teenager who is actually the child of Tara and Willow. And as the books have continued, we see Thessaly, that is her, grow in age and her relationship with Buffy change. So my first step when I was doing this was to really sit down and think about what is the natural progression of someone like Buffy? Where would she be, 30, 25 years when we last saw her? What would be important to her? What might she be struggling with? And I was the same age as Buffy when the show started coming out, so I am now still the same age that Buffy would have been. And there are a lot of parallels in my life that I'm dealing with as a woman getting into my 40s, although Buffy is older in this series. And it felt like just a really natural progression to think about this person who had been such a star and such a hero and so in the spotlight. And something that just happens culturally, which is disgusting, is that the older women get, the more invisible we become. And we aren't these ingenues anymore, even though we are stronger and more powerful and more secure in ourselves than we ever were. When society sees us, they just sort of look the other way. So that was where this story opened, was Buffy. My metaphor for that was that she's no longer allowed to be a slayer. And her powers haven't gone. Her intelligence hasn't gone. She's still the same person. She's even better at her job, but she can't do it anymore. So how would that inform who she is? What would her life look like? And now into this next arc, Thessaly is in her early 20s and is fully embodied in her Slayer identity. Buffy is her watcher, and we get to see the dynamics that are there.
One of the pieces I thought that was really interesting about your first arc was getting to see, the society's approach to incorporating the monsters, being more aware of what Buffy had been dealing with for so long. How did you approach essentially incorporating the monsters into the day-to-day aspect of the real world?
This was so easy. I was writing this during COVID and during a very challenging political climate. So it was very easy to suspend disbelief and say, what would it look like for society to suddenly embrace these things that were trying to kill us? And I don't want to get too political with this, but I think that parallel is pretty clear. Mm-hmm. That in the last several years, we have seen a shocking amount of things normalized to the point where it's so normalized that it starts to have a fandom and people that are very supportive of it, even though the things at the root of this are very dangerous. But in this world, the sun has gone through a temporary death in the first book, and the vampires were just out and about and had protections and were allowed to do whatever they wanted except kill, and humans were just lining up to donate and to protect them. So the approach was honestly the easiest part. I was like, oh, I know what that's going to feel like.
Well, let's go back to Buffy now as a watcher,
Yes.
and I'm sure there's going to be moments of Giles coming through with those teachable moments. But did you go back and watch any key episodes, or I guess no, just
no. I stopped watching the show, about 10 years ago, and when I was approached to do this book, I thought, do I want to go back and watch, or do I want to just write based on what I last felt? And I went with that. And I was really surprised that all of the fluency was still there, that the dialogue came really naturally. I have watched some pieces here and there just to refresh storylines, because even though The Last Vampire Slayer is an alternate universe, I do have continuity that I want to have in my story. So I watched a little bit to refresh, but the way that I write is I can't listen to music. I can't really watch a lot of media that is similar to what I'm writing. Otherwise, I'm just going to repeat it. So my refresh was really just looking at facts and things from the book. Things from the show.
If that's your style and that's your approach, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, but also it comes from a place of the heart, and it's a little bit more internal, I believe.
Yeah.
I'd like to also talk about the art. You have an amazing art team. Can you share maybe your highlights of having the characters realized in this incarnation and working with your art team.
So the current series artist is Oriel Roig, which is a change from the last two arcs, which was Joe Jarrow. And their styles are very different. So Joe has this like very grounded in reality, great anatomy, great physicality approach to Buffy, where she looks like you could just tackle her, like she's so solid. And Oriel's style is a little bit more cartoony and a little bit more playful, and I think in some ways a little bit more anime influenced, which is also really fun and it's different. So what I have been enjoying about seeing the art for this arc is that there's a lot of physical humor in Buffy. It's a funny show. And Oriel has done just such a great job tackling that part of it. There's also some really great moments where anatomy accuracy is sort of suspended to give dramatic reactions or to give like these really great expressions. And that is not something that we had in the first couple of books. So it's just been fun seeing the differences. And that's part of what I love about comics is the collaboration and seeing what different things come out of different teams.
We're very excited for the next arc. You did a wonderful job with the first story, and getting to explore this corner of the Buffyverse is exciting for readers. So thank you so much. Stay tuned for more Boom Studios coverage at Comics Online.